Hey everyone, this is Mike Sigula from TrueTheory.com and welcome to another video. So today we're going to talk about the most recent situation with Donald Trump and my analysis from more esoteric perspective, because I think there is some kind of hidden esoteric or metaphysical thing going on behind the scenes, and some of this might sound controversial, of course, and there's going to be a lot of people who are going to hear things like numerology and they're going to roll their eyes straight away because that's what we're going to talk about. But what I want to say here is, please at least listen to the whole thing, because I'm going to give you some actual resource that you can check yourself to verify some of the things I'm going to talk about. And hopefully that's going to make you think a little bit, because to me, cycles of time which have basis in numerology, which is a form of science, is very, very real. And only because people never try to understand these things, they just roll their eyes straight away or try to dismiss it, they never can comprehend it. But if you actually try to understand it, you will see that it actually makes perfect sense. So if you actually look at what's recently happened with Trump, 13th of July, there was an attempt of assassination of Donald Trump. 80 years before that, a couple of days of difference, 7 days of difference, which is 1944, 20th of July, there was an attempt of assassination of Adolf Hitler. So exactly 80 years. By the way, there are 7 days difference, but people are going to be, oh, it's not exactly 80 years. Cycles and things like that are periods, right? Doesn't mean that it's going to be exactly every second, but it is always around the same date or around the same time, or the period of couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months on the period, right? So 80 years before what's happened on 13th of July 2024, there was very similar situation with Adolf Hitler. He had his assassination attempt on 20th of July 2044. Both of them survived, right? And now, why there is actually a meaning behind it, why there is some correlation here. I think that Trump today represents a character like Hitler 80 years ago. And it doesn't mean people are going to think like, oh, you're crazy, Hitler was an evil blah blah blah, and Trump maybe not, maybe yes. Some people are gonna be like yes, some people not. It's not about that. In the current version, in our times, some of the characteristics of that person represent probably most likely a mirror here. It's not that we're saying that Trump is as evil as Hitler or anything like that. Although I know, looking at memes on social media, I know some people are comparing them, but this is not about that. What it is about is that we have cycles that repeat, and based on that, Trump seems to be a similar type of energy, characteristics of Hitler 80 years ago. So there is a book called The Fourth Turning, which was published in 1997, I believe, or late 90s. And this book is written by historians, so not numerologists or people who believe anything like that, but actually regular academics. And in that book, they made some predictions for the next 20 or 30 years, from 1997 or something around that, because they noticed that there are cycles in American history, but obviously in every history and everything, there are cycles, right? And they compared what's happening to what's been happening before, right? So these guys from the fourth churning, the book, they said something that in around 10 years there's going to be some kind of economic crash. I don't remember all the details, but they basically talked about 2008 recession, right? Just 10 years before. And then they said that, you know, people like Trump, polarizing, will likely get into power in that period over the next 20 years or something. And there is gonna be a potential for a great war around 2020 something, right? That's what they predicted in 1997. They said that there will be conditions for a great war in 2020s, right? Which is exactly what we are going through now with what's happening between Ukraine and Russia and, you know, Palestine and Israel and things like that, right? So we are actually exactly in that period. They said there are conditions for these things, but it doesn't mean that these things will happen, because we are going through a winter period in 80 to 90 year cycle, right? They said that the cycles are around 80 to 90 years, and it's like a winter period, right? And in the winter period, fourth churning, you know, you have these conditions for some of these craziest things to happen. Now, if you look at 80 years before what's happened, right? 80 years before now, you actually had World War II, right? So one of the worst wars ever, or the worst one. And if you look at 2008, which was when the recession started, if you calculate 80 years before that, what do you get? You actually get the Great Depression, you know, end of 1920s in the US, right? So exactly as predicted. And if you look at 80 years before that, 80 years before the World War II, this is 1860s, and that's the American Civil War. So again, one of the worst wars in American history, the World War II, the American Civil War, they actually happen every 80 years. This is what these guys were able to predict, right? Because think about things go in cycles, right? Same way as you have 4 seasons, right? You know that after the winter it resets again and you have spring again, so you have rebirth. Things are dying and then are born again, right? And these types of cycles, the natural cycles, rhythms of the universe, are reflected in everything, in economic cycles, in you know, in cycles in history and things like that, right? So, because of what's happened with Trump and because what's happened with Hitler, I think they are actually representing the same type of energy. Again, not confused, you know, someone like Hitler with Trump, that things that Hitler did, etc., because it's not about that. I'm not trying to compare that Trump is evil as Hitler or anything like that to all you Trump supporters. This is not about that. It's about the kind of type of energy that they represent in this period, right? One thing. Second thing is, remember that you never saw the true face of Trump, really, because Hitler was also loved by German public for a while until his true character was revealed during the World War II, right? And we are going through the World War III scenario now, which comes in a very, very mild version or no version, because there's only conflict happening with Russia and Ukraine, and currently, you know, maybe Israel and Palestine. But if we would be experiencing the winter period in a full-blown scenario, that would turn into a World War III. And if Trump would be a president here, you don't know how he would act as well. So you don't know if he would, for example, not act like Hitler. Maybe not, we're not talking about Holocaust and things like that, but in a very aggressive way, right? Again, these are approximate characteristics, right? And I'm not saying that Trump is as evil as Hitler, because some people are going to be already straight away, oh, you are crazy, blah, blah, blah. No, we're just talking about cycles of time and how they reflect in the current period. What are similarities, right? Hope this is clear. Now, what it all has to do with numerology. So, numerology, basically 8 represents that infinity, right? That end and beginning. So, it even looks like infinity, by the way. You have 4 seasons, right? But everything is dualistic, right? So 8 represents the end and the beginning at the same time, the full cycle, right? Now there's a lot more, but I'm gonna probably do part 2 to this video. We will also talk about significance of Donald Trump, because he's 45th president, number 9, which is the culmination, and this is the mirror of the whole of United States represented in a person, right? This is another thing, but I'm gonna do an update part 2 on this video. Let me know what you think about it, and please check out the 4th Churning, the book. I'm gonna link it probably in the description and give you the full name. And you know, again, you don't have to believe in numerology. These guys, the historians who wrote the book, they don't talk about numerology. They don't know that actually 80 to 90 year cycles is numerological cycles. They don't understand that. They just noticed the patterns based on the history, because they study the history. So let me know what you think about it in the comments, and I'll try to do part 2 on this topic as well, to give you more clarity. Hope this makes sense.